Hey, welcome everyone. Welcome to our Weaver State Zoom Career Bites. I'm Brett Merrill. I'm excited to be with you and to be able to host this webinar again. This is a webinar that we hold every Wednesday through the summer. And from 12 to 12:30, we have a business executive talk to us about a specific topic that helps us to prepare and be more effective in that job search process, to find the right job, to get it onto the right career. At approximately 12:30, we'll wrap up the presentation and then we'll have a Q&A session. As we go along through the presentation, if you have any questions, at the bottom of your screen, you can see a Q&A button. Click on that and you can type in your questions and then I will review them. If 2 or 3 of you have similar questions, I'll combine them and then I'll serve them up to our presenter. This week, our topic is a fantastic, intriguing topic. It is, what do recruiters look for in an interview? Think about that. If you knew what was in a recruiter's mind, if you knew what questions they may ask, if you knew how they're going to evaluate candidates and make the decision of who they bring in for further interviews, what incredible power that would give you to be able to go in and own the interview and to also be incredibly prepared for that interview beforehand. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And we have an incredible expert on this topic. She will discount her expertise, but she has 26 years of experience in HR with interviewing, working with people. It's Susan Hostetter. Susan is the Senior Vice President at Tab Bank. And in this position, she participates in all the different strategic functions and initiatives of the bank. And she oversees all the operations initiatives that are related to HR. In her career, she's been a benefit manager, HR manager, chief human resource manager, and now she's senior vice president of human resources. She's also a graduate of San Diego State University with a Bachelor's of Arts and Sciences, and she also has her PHR and her SHRM CP certificates. So we bring to you another incredible expert. And with that, Susan, let me hand the ball off to you and you help us understand what these recruiters are looking for.
Wonderful. Well, I'm excited to be here. I'm going to go ahead and make sure you can see my slides. So I thank you for the very kind introduction, Brett. I appreciate that. A little bit more about my history and my detail, or my history with my work experience. I started my HR career early on, kind of fell into the role, and I was plucked into a recruiter role at a high volume hotel in Salt Lake City. And by high volume, I mean constant job openings, constant positions to fill. And I loved it. And I spent every day, all day, interviewing people, reviewing applications and resumes. And that was anywhere from dishwashers and housekeepers all the way up to the, staff, sales managers, administrative assistants, etc., throughout the organization. So throughout my career, though I've grown it into being more of a generalist HR role and focused on strategy for organizations, but I still spend time interviewing people. Sometimes it's internal candidates, sometimes they're external candidates. So today I've devised the top 10 things a recruiter looks for in an interview. And I kind of feel like I'm sharing some secrets with you because I'm showing you a little bit behind the scenes of what I as a recruiter have looked for throughout my career. I've interviewed hundreds, if not thousands of candidates through my career. And I'll share with you that the 10 tips I'm sharing with you today, most people don't follow them. Well, I shouldn't say most. Most probably do follow them because I've hired a lot of people. And by the way, the 10 tips I put are just my brainstorm. They are not in order of importance. I will share what I'm going to talk to you about today may seem like common sense. But again, like I said in my interviews, I've seen people not follow these tips, and ultimately, I probably didn't work with them. Before we get started, I want to talk about what is the purpose of a recruiter. I mean, there's the official definition of a recruiter. But really, it's to find the very best candidate for the role. That is my job as a recruiter, is to find the best person. So what does that mean? Well, it doesn't always mean I need the most experienced person. Sometimes it means I want to find a candidate who's going to sit in that role for a year or two, or any amount of time. Hey, it might be in evolving companies, it might be someone who can develop into a leader with the organization. Sometimes I might be adding to a team who's been there long term, and we need a new set of eyes to look at our processes. So finding the best candidate for the role can shift from position to position. But assuming, as I'm speaking to you, you've gotten the interview, now is your chance to put your best foot forward during this interview. And I also want you to think of it a little selfishly too. I want to make sure that you think this is a good fit for you also. So the first thing I want you to do is be yourself. Look, you might think the best way just to ace a job interview is to figure out what I, as the recruiter, want to hear. And then you just tell me that. Well, first of all, if you search me on social media, you're probably never going to find out there what I'm actually looking for in the role, because remember, my job is to find the best candidate for the position I'm interviewing for. So I want you to be absolutely authentic, be passionate, be honest during the interview, and be yourself. You know, if you think that just telling me what I want to hear is going to work, it won't. Chances are you're acting, which takes a lot of energy, probably is going to increase anxiety and nerves, because right now you're in an interview. It is normal to be nervous, and recruiters know that. Like I mentioned previously, I do want you to be a little selfish in this process too, to make sure that this is going to work for you too. So if you learn that the environment you're interviewing in, let's say, is really relaxed and full of a lot of self-paced work, but you might be a little more, I don't know, want structure and direction, maybe it's not going to be a good fit, or you could at least talk through that with the recruiter. The second thing I think candidates should...
Susan, this is Brett. Set up if you want to share your screen.
Am I not sharing my screen? I apologize.
We're just seeing you.
Oh my goodness, I apologize for that. I didn't hit the share button. Thank you, Brett.
There you go. Thank you.
Perfect. So be your authentic self. So we'll move on. Can you see my screen okay? It says show up now.
Yep, I can. Perfect. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Sorry about that. So when I talk about show up, and this is what recruiters are looking for, there's a couple things I mean. Now, obviously in this COVID pandemic, you may have video interviews. There are some companies that are inviting people into an office to interview, but either way, I want you to show up. That means be on time. So if you're going to an office environment and you're showing up, get there early, sit in your car, give yourself a pep talk and just wait in your car, or play a game on your phone, or review your notes. Do whatever you need, and then a few minutes before your interview, head into the building. If you're having a video conference or a video interview, be sure to, show up a few minutes early in case there's technical difficulties, but always be on time. I want to make sure that you're making eye contact when you show up. This is making a connection with the human you're sitting with or virtually having an interview with. And obviously, if you're on a video call, I would encourage you to use your video camera if you have the technical ability to do so. Showing up also means be engaged. This means really be engaged with the discussion. I have an office up in Ogden at Tab Bank, and part of my wall is all glass looking out onto the floor. And when I've interviewed people and they're constantly distracted by the people walking by, I know they're not really engaged in our discussion. So it's really important to kind of laser focus on the discussion you're having with the recruiter. And of course, and I say this because I have young adult children, put your phones away. This might mean leave it in your bag, leave it in your car, slip it in your pocket, whatever you need to do, silence it. but put your phone away because that can be a real big distraction for anyone. Moving on, I'd like to tell you the third tip I have is really be professional. So let's start with how we dress in our attire. So if you're, I always suggest that you really dress for the job you're interviewing for, or better or nicer. So if you know the environment's casual, for instance, at Tab Bank, the president of the bank walks around in jeans, a golf shirt, and nice tennis shoes. Now, candidates could come in that way, but I'd probably suggest bump it up a notch. Maybe wear a dress shirt and slacks. And of course, make sure your clothing isn't wrinkled, that you look put together, that you didn't just roll out of bed, pick the closest thing to your bed, throw it on, and head to your interview. Of course, grooming, as far as being professional, I'm going to assume, but I've seen lots of people not do this. Make sure you take a shower. Make sure you primp. And whatever primping means for you. If it's putting on makeup or not, that's fine. If it's putting product in your hair, that's great. And obviously, if you're doing in-person interviews, I would definitely suggest don't overuse any scents like colognes or perfumes. It can be off-putting. People might not enjoy them as much as you do. Being professional also includes the stories you share, whatever you share in an interview. As an example, often when I'm interviewing people, I'll just ask a simple question like, how's your day going? And a number of times, candidates have said to me, oh, I'm just exhausted. I was up all night partying. And I think, oh, okay, this is a professional interview. They're putting their best foot forward, and they're showing me that they can come in a little haggard. So I would definitely say keep your stories very professional, and what you share with recruiters very professional. And of course, be professional in the language you use. I've had F-bombs dropped in my interviews. Maybe I just make people feel really comfortable, but I'd say they're not really in that professional arena that I'm looking for to add to my professional workplace. The fourth thing I'd suggest is communicate effectively. So on the chart here, you can see 93% of our communication being effective is based on things like our facial expressions, our voice, our movements, our eye contact, even our posture. Only 7% accounts for the words that we use. Now, the words are important, and I do want to make sure that you're concise in your communication, because as a recruiter, if I ask a question and it takes you 20 minutes to answer it, we're not probably being very concise in our communication. Be sure not to use fillers such as ums and huh when you're talking. So you really want to be very professional in your communication to make it effective. The fifth tip I have here, and ironically, I have this picture. July is National Ice Cream Month, evidently, but we've got two kinds of ice cream, right? We've got regular ice cream or hard ice cream, and we've got soft serve ice cream. And I want to compare that because I want to talk to you about showing off your soft skills. Now, the hard skills, and by the way, both ice creams are good, right? But so are hard skills and soft skills. So hard skills are really those teachable skills that are easy to quantify. So when we think through hard skills, I'm thinking about things like a college degree. Does the candidate have it or not have it? Typing speed. Here's my baseline. Is the candidate above or below? Those are quantifiable. Are they proficient in a foreign language when I need bilingual skills? What about programming or accounting? Those are kind of hard skills we're talking about. But I want to help you focus on your soft skills. Those are really your people skills, your interpersonal skills. And this is a time to think through, where are your strengths in your soft skills? Because you're going to be very different than the next human that comes in to interview. We're all created a little differently. So I'm showing you some of the most sought after soft skills out there that I found. I can add to this list though. I mean, really, I want you to be authentic and show off what you're good at. So if you're someone who has a lot of patience, that might be a soft skill that I'm looking for. Or if you are very good at collaborating and working on team environments, and I'm hiring on a team that really has to work together, that might be a soft skill that you want to really showcase. All right, the sixth tip I have for you as far as what recruiters are looking for is staying positive. So I want to clarify this. This does not mean that you need to be incredibly bubbly in your personality like some people, but it does mean that you can see the upside of any situation. Because look, we all have issues or make errors or have weaknesses, right? But if we can learn from those, that's what I want you to focus on. So this is not the time to focus on the negatives in all your experiences. I want you to really go in as a candidate and see the positives and state those. So I'm going to give you an example. A common question I ask candidates is, as I'm getting to know them and going through their resume or application, is, why did you leave your last job? So I want to give you two different scenarios here. So let's say you left your last job because your boss was a jerk, your boss took credit for your assignments, and maybe your boss was even demeaning in group settings or in team meetings. So rather than share with me as the recruiter that your boss was a jerk, your boss took credit for your assignments, and your boss was demeaning in team meetings, the answer very easily could be, I really enjoyed working at that company. I loved their mission and their vision for what they did for their customers and the community. However, I really want an opportunity to learn new things and be part of a team that appreciates what I contribute. I saw your job. I saw the awards your company have won, and I felt like this was really worth pursuing, right? You're still sharing an honest answer, but some recruiters are really looking for that negative issue. And when that continues to come up, we think you're going to bring that into our workplace. Let's use a different example. Let's say a candidate was fired for attendance or tardiness issues. Now, like I mentioned, I have young adult children. Some are better at this than others, and I do try to coach them, but maybe they need to hear it from their friends. Anyway, if someone's fired for attendance or tardiness, rather than answer my question of why did you leave your last job, an answer could be, by focusing on the positive, is, and by the way, I'm never suggesting you lie. So if they do say, are you fired? Were you fired? You can say yes, but I would follow up with explanation. But if I say, why did you leave your last job and you were actually fired? You could say something along the lines of, I decided that job wasn't a great fit for me because the early morning start time at 5 a.m. wasn't going to work with me for my school schedule. I realized why the company needed someone there at 5 a.m. and I figured it was just best to part ways because I knew they needed someone there at 5 a.m. Right? So it tells me as the recruiter, you've learned on what's going to work for you and the importance of what the company needed from you. Right? I do also say stay positive. We live in a small state. I've worked with a lot of people multiple times through different companies. We don't want to burn bridges. So it's really important to stay positive and see that opportunity. As far as the seventh tip I have for you, it's twofold. There's an A and a B to this. It's really prepare. I want you to be able to prepare by researching. Let's start with that. Company information. Learn as much as you can to get that foundation of understanding for the company you're interviewing with. Dig in deep. There's places you can look. You can look on Glassdoor. You can go online. You can go to LinkedIn. You can find someone in your network who works for that company and have that conversation with them. You can look at call reports. You can look at other public information that's out there. In fact, make sure you look at things like the job posting of which you're interviewing for. Make sure you're real clear on what the requirements are and the skills, knowledge, and ability you're going to need. The second part of this I put is bragging tidbits. Probably not exactly accurate, but I want you to get prepped to brag. This is your time to put your best foot forward and really show off what you can offer the organization. So you're going to think of anywhere between 5 to 15. I want you to put some work into this, of quantifiable examples that you can show off your learning experiences or accomplishments. And you can pull from those 5 to 15 examples at any time during the interview. One method is you think through it as a challenge, action, and result, which is the CAR method. So you think through when you've worked on a tough project, a mistake you've made, when you've improved sales from X to Y, when you managed a team, when you decreased expenses. Think of things like that that really are meant to be your bragging moments or your bragging tidbits. So for me personally, my examples may be that I improved employee engagement by X to Y by implementing these strategies. But I want you as a candidate, because this is what recruiters are looking for, is to take initiative to share your story. Instead of waiting for a very specific question about how did you improve sales, I want you to be able to insert your examples into the questions I, as the recruiter, are asking you, rather than just saying no. So if a recruiter asks, do you have experience with X or Y? Your answer might be no, but you could easily respond with, I don't have a lot of experience in that area, but I am a very fast learner. Here's an example, and you're pulling out one of your challenge, action, result examples that you've come up with ahead of time. It's really a good way to showcase what you can offer. The second part of preparing is be prepared to answer behavioral-based interview questions. And I share this because every recruiter I've ever worked with will ask questions like these. And I'll share with you what they are, examples of them in just a sec. But I do want to share with you that the best predictor of future behavior and performance is past behavior and performance. So when we think through what are some of those, and these are just a sample of what behavior-based interview questions can be. I, as the recruiter, am asking you to pull from actual examples. Tell me about a time. These are not hypothetical questions that I'm asking. I'm saying, tell me about a time that you've handled a challenging situation, right? Or tell me about a time you made a mistake. So pull from those CAR examples, and explain that. This is a perfect time to insert your bragging tidbits. I also think it's important to share, as the 8th tip, is work can equal life as far as experiences are concerned. Some of you may have extensive work experience, which is great. And obviously, any of the questions in an interview should be focused on your work experience. But some of you may not, and that's okay. In fact, be sure to apply your experiences in life if you don't have the work experience, just in the same way during an interview. So think of, when you think of life experiences, think of study groups you've worked on, college teams you've been a part of, leadership opportunities you've done, whether it's community or religious affiliations you have and that work you do there. Even if it's babysitting or lawn mowing or working at your family's business, those are really great experiences to pull from. If you've done internships, that's also another area I think would be of value to bring up. The 9th thing I want to talk about as far as what recruiters are looking for, we want to make sure you're asking good questions. Now, this is another opportunity to shine here. The questions that I would determine aren't good at this stage in the process are things that focus on what's in it for you as the candidate. So if you're asking me at your very first interview, what's your 401k like and what kind of time off do you have? And do you have free food and ping pong tables? Those probably aren't great questions. Again, this is your opportunity. Most interviews end with, what questions can I answer for you? So what I want you to do is really think of questions that you couldn't find on your own the answers to. So if it's something that's in the job description or job posting, or it can be found online, now is not the time to ask. But what you can do after you've researched the company is ask about the growth strategy. Ask, what does success look like for this role? One of my favorites is, can you describe the manager's leadership style? That's not public information, right? You're talking to someone within the organization who works closely with that manager. So describe the management's leadership style. Or, I looked on your website, I didn't see your mission, vision, and values. Can you walk me through what that looks like? So ask good questions and take that opportunity. And the final thing I want to share with everyone is I want you to have fun. Use this interview really as an opportunity to grow, to develop, and maybe even get a job offer. Use it as practice, but have a good time doing it, because your energy will definitely be felt from the recruiter during the process. So again, I think if you can really be yourself, show up, be professional, communicate effectively, show off those soft skills, stay positive, prepare, use your experience, ask good questions, and have some fun. You'll do great. Thank you.
Susan, that was incredible. As I think through the many times that I've talked with students and alumni about the interview process, I look at your list and that would cover so many of the questions that they have and how to prepare. That's a great checklist to go down through to get ready for the interview. And as you do this, as you'll go into the interview incredibly confident and prepared and so then you'll have some really great discussions.
Sure.
If you have any questions, can you please put them in the tab at the bottom? I've got a couple of questions right now and I'll serve up for Susan. Susan, so the first question is, how could we improve our typing speeds? What speed do you usually require for jobs?
Great question. And honestly, I'm going to be fully transparent here, because one of the things I'm asking you to do as candidates is be honest. We don't have a lot of jobs that need typing speed. We do have some that need 10 key speed, not very many though, very few positions. There are all sorts of tools online where you can do free testing. So I know those are out there. So you can go out there and practice those. But really in the job description or the job posting, you're going to see what is the requirement if that is an essential function needed.
Okay, great. Next question is it possible to overdress for an interview? If I go in overdressed, will I be dinged by the people that I interview with?
I would say no. I would say, again, tab is pretty casual, and I've seen people come in suits, and it's completely appropriate as far as I'm concerned. Now, a tuxedo or a formal gown, that would be a different kind of overdress that I wouldn't suggest. But a suit or a nice business outfit, I think are always going to be a win. And especially if you don't know what the dress or attire is like. I think it's always better to dress up versus down. I think flipping that and dressing in jeans and a golf shirt style when they're in suits is a little more uncomfortable. So.
Okay, great. So two questions that I'll combine on soft skills. One is, can you show the soft skills slide again?
Of course.
And then the related question comes up to that is, when I have my resume, should I list soft skills, or is it something that I should just show in an interview?
That is a great question. So thank you for posing that. I think some of these soft skills could be listed on a resume, but I really think they're your people skills. It's how you show up and interact, because anyone can say they're dependable. But if I put that on my resume, but I show up 10 minutes late for an interview, my actions are not aligned with my words on my resume, right? So to me, they're not as effective. I think they could be sprinkled in throughout a resume or an application, but I think that's really something you're going to want to show off in the interview process or in your communications with the company.
So let me add to that. As I talk with individuals on this, you have to be very careful. Is when you can go in and list 10 to 12 soft skills, you be selective about those soft skills that you think really pertain to the job if you list them. And if you do, you've got to make sure that you have very good, clear examples of those soft skills and how it made a difference in what you did on the job. If you have a point in there that talks about the change management or teamwork, conflict resolution, if I ask you, if I'm the interviewer and I ask you, talk with me about your conflict resolution skill. You have this listed in your soft skills area. If I've listed that because it looks like a really nice thing to say, but I really don't have good examples on it, it will hurt me because people lose confidence in the rest of my resume and the rest of my answers. So be selective and make sure they really apply to you and you have examples.
Yes, be authentic, exactly.
Another question, what factors would you consider to be tiebreakers if you have two great candidates?
That is tough. You know, when I've been in that situation in work environments, I often then would have candidates interview with the team and let the team help decide. It's hard to just look at two people on paper or in person in interviews and assess, because everyone's so very different. So it's hard to say there's always a tie. Usually there's a close second in my experience. And sometimes we end up going with the close second or the first declines our offer. So that's a tough question, but usually I would then continue an interview process with that person to help really hone in and differentiate the candidates.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next question is, if I go into an interview and I have a set of questions that I'm asking the interviewer, if I am interviewing separately with 3 or 4 people, is it okay to go and ask the same set of questions with everybody that I'm talking to? Or would it look bad?
No, it does not look bad. It's 100% okay. Because again, a recruiter might have a different perspective than the hiring manager. And so I think asking the same set of questions is completely 100% perfect. You do want to hear different perspectives from the organization.
Terrific. Hey, that is the questions. Susan, thank you very much. You've been incredible. Given us great insight, and thank you for your partnership with Weber State. We love the relationship with you and with Tab Bank.
Thank you.
Next week, next Wednesday, we'll have another one of our webinars for Zoom Career Bites. Our speaker will be Blaine Leonard from UDOT, Utah Department of Transportation, and he'll be talking on the topic about making networking work for you. Now, across the U.S., about 75 to 80% of the jobs are never posted anywhere. You won't see them on LinkedIn or Indeed. And the primary avenue that you find them is through networking. So people hear that, then the first questions they come up with is, what is networking? How do I develop my network? And Blaine has a great experience, work history, leading, managing, interviewing. And so he'll talk with you about that, and he'll give some experiences in his life about where networking made the difference. So join us next week at noon to hear from Blaine. So, guys, thank you very much for coming and being with us. Susan, you're fantastic. We appreciate all you do with us.
Thank you.
Everybody have a great week.